Welcome back, babe, to another episode of the Creatress of Freedom podcast. I am so happy you're here. I am Annie. I am your host. If you are new, welcome. Welcome, welcome. If you're an OG, you know that I love you. Welcome back. And I'm so happy that you took some time out of your day today to tune into today's episode. Clearly, the title has sparked some interest and you've decided to jump on in and see what this episode is all about. So welcome. I'm super excited to have this really, really beautiful conversation with you today. I have a very, very special guest speaker here with me today. And this woman, I must say, seriously, out of all of the mentorship containers that I invest in, the one thing that I get out of it the most is the damn sisterhood, the incredible women that I meet out of all of the investments. That's seriously what I take away from it. So this beautiful woman, Diana, has been in my world for over a year now. We met in a mentorship space together, and then we met in person in Colorado, and it was so nice to actually squeeze you from the other side of the camera. And she also came in and was a guest speaker inside my Evolve container as well. So if you've listened to other episodes, if you've been in my world before, you will know all about my Evolve space. It is all about the woman who is literally wanting to evolve as the whole woman through healing, meditations, spirituality, relationships, you name it, is all there. So when I asked Diana, would she come on and do this podcast interview with me, and she said yes, I was super excited because I know this woman has so much wisdom to pour into every single one of you today. So Diana, welcome, babe. I'm so happy that you're here.
Thank you for the beautiful introduction. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, of course, of course. So, and Diana, tell the audience first a little bit about what is it that you do? What is your specialty? What medicine do you bring to the world?
Oh, I love this question. And isn't it always evolving in its answer?
Yes, I hear you.
So, my medicine has and always will be love. Love in relationships. And the method that I work with is the self-centered way. And self is really the sovereignty to embody a love frequency. And so the movement that I lead in the world is really helping women to be self-centered, which we have typically seen as a negative thing. And I'm really here to flip that on its head and support women really to actually be in receivership in their relationships, to remember who they are, to really stand in their seat of power and invite the masculine to rise. I always say, it's not so much femme rising to me. It's actually go deeper in your feminine so the masculine can rise. And that beautiful harmony that gets to be created between both energies within yourself and within your relationships. And really at the end of the day, the sovereignty to embody love frequency, the self method, is something you get to use in your relationship to any and all things: money, discipline, working out, food, romantic relationship, children, parents, all of it, your business, your clients. So really what I love to do is help a woman be the lover who receives, the mother who puts herself first, and the woman who makes bank, living her best life.
Amen. Mic drop to that. That was perfect. And I hear what you say, when it's fuck, when someone asks you that question, it's it's actually really hard sometimes to put it into words, what it is that you do, because it's not really a doing. It's so much more about a feeling that is created in it. And sometimes human words can't describe that. So you did that beautifully. So
well, thank you. Thank you.
I put you on the spot there, but you handled that amazingly. There was something that you talked about here that I want to touch on. And then there was another part that I wanted to touch on too, because I do see this even in my spaces and in my world as well, and even just being a woman myself, the word self-centered. Can we talk a little bit about that? Because even as you said that, now I'm a woman who is all about self, right? I will eliminate what is not for my highest good. But even when you said those words, there was a little bit of contraction in my body. And I was I don't know how I feel about those words. So
yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about this?
Absolutely. There was a client of mine once who used the words, the nucleus of yourself or something like that. And the way I see it is like the woman, especially if she wants to be the one in the feminine pole of a relationship, let's say, right? She is the nucleus of the relationship, the nucleus of the home, and everything kind of centers around the energetic state that she's in. And you can take that as a burden or you can see it as your superpower, right? So last Saturday, I woke up in a funk, and I swear in 10 minutes, the whole house was in a funk, because that's how powerful I am, right? And that's not a burden. It is something though that I do get to use more intentionally and be more, uses my power. And so really at the end of the day, so I say self-centered because it makes you turn your head, right? And it makes you like, huh, what? Like I've been taught my whole life that is a negative thing to be, right? But when we really see it from the lens of, so okay, let me back it up for a minute. In 2020, I was writing a TEDx talk, and the title of the talk was "Your relationships are a reflection of yourself."
Mm-hmm.
And when I was looking at like my client process and all the things, I was like, okay, we know this idea of like your relationship reflects your inner world, or it reflects your personality, or it reflects your highest self. But what I stopped in my tracks was like, wait, self is not just those things. It's actually an acronym, and the acronym is a process. And so the self-centered woman, is actually your sovereignty to embody a love frequency. And so it's actually the most beautiful, profound thing to be someone who takes personal responsibility, who takes care of herself, and who chooses over and over again love over fear. And the compound effect of that choice over time, like, shifts your world, shifts the way people feel around you, shifts your relationships. So it is really like I'm the most important person in the world because everything is a reflection of me.
Mm, mm. I loved that you just said that it's a compounding effect, because it's all those little times where we choose ourselves that add up, right? Because I think when we do talk about this like self-centered woman, it's like, well, how do I become her? How do I do that? Like, we are undoing years of generational patterns here, where we are taught to be the complete opposite of that and to people please and make sure that everybody else is okay and happy. So what would your advice be to the woman that's perhaps listening to this episode like just a few minutes in? What are we, like
Right.
10 minutes in, and she's like, I don't know how the fuck I'm going to do this. Like,
Yeah.
what would you give to her that is
Yeah.
like juggling relationships, business, children, friendships? She's trying to be the good daughter. Like, she's like, where the fuck do I fit me in this? Like,
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
this sounds greght, Diana, but like
Yeah.
my reality is not that. So what would you
Yeah.
say to a woman?
Yeah, I love that. As you're saying, like children, business, I'm like, my head is spiraling kind of because it is so much, right? And there is this concept. So there's two things I want to say to this. So there's this concept that I love to talk about, which is overwhelm to overflow. Right? So it sounds so overwhelming. I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a wife, I'm I don't know, a business owner, I'm a sister, I'm a friend, I'm a woman. Like, let me not forget that, right? I'm all these things. I'm a spiritual being in a human body, and I want to meditate, and I want to work out, and how, right? And when we really stop to take a look at those things, it's like, have you ever felt yourself overwhelmed by, let's say, like all the clients and the trips you're going on and the friend dates, and you're like, but wait a second. This is actually overflow. And I've actually chosen these things. And there is a way for my nervous system to be with all of that, right? And there is a real reframe, not just in your mind, because I don't do work that stops at the mind. Everything I do comes into the body. But there is a way to reframe not only the way I think about this, but the way I feel about this. And if there's something I need to choose differently, then I will. So I'll give a tangible example of this. It was a long weekend here a few days ago. And so my kids were home, which is beautiful. But we'd already, like, this was our third day together. I'd spent all Saturday, Sunday with them, and that was Monday. And there was really some things I needed to get done, especially because I'm leaving in a week for a week. And what that means is, like, I'm completely like disconnected for that entire week. I'm not getting to any of the things that I know need to be done. So I know that I need to put aside a couple of hours to focus on some quote unquote work, which never feels like work, but something I just like could literally lose myself in. And so I tell my husband, I'm like, okay, I'm going to go to the coffee shop. I'm going to go focus on my work. I might need like 4 hours. And he's like, cool, go do your thing. So I'm at the coffee shop and I actually am so focused. I get the bulk of what I need to get done in 2 hours, right? And so I'm like, oh, I had told him I was gone for 4 hours. So I'm kind of sitting there and I can see that there is this tendency to want to pour all myself into my business. But meanwhile, my kids are at home. And because I've gone through this process, the sovereignty to embody love frequency so many times, I have really clarified what my values are. And when I sit with my values, it's like I could keep working to get ahead of the game, which actually, let's be real, never ever actually happens. It just tops itself right back up, right? Or I could choose the things I deeply, deeply, deeply value, which is spending time with my kids as they grow up. And so I got to manage both, to be with both, just by being honest with myself. And that has been a massive part of my journey, especially around motherhood, that we could talk about another time. But it is like, it's sovereignty. It's getting in my body. It's getting truthful, and it's choosing love. And what does love look like in that moment? It doesn't look like more productivity. It looks like being home with my children and making popsicles and like going outside, and that's what it means in that moment. And so it's this moment to moment honesty with yourself, which actually ends up being overflow for the people around you as well. I'm curious if that lands with the question that you asked.
Yeah, 100%. As you're talking, I feel like a recent theme that has been coming up in my community is I can feel this expansion for the women that are mothers, all of the things, and business owners, and the expansion feels within the business. And so I'm often hearing this. Like I'm overwhelmed, I'm exhausted, like I can't do it, like all of these things are coming at me, and I'm just like, it's all too much, right? And so I had a very similar analogy where I was like, you've asked for more, right? So sometimes when we ask for more, we have to widen our capacity to receive. So this is just your mind playing a trick on you right now, pretending that you can't handle this, but you can handle this, and this is just a choice that you get to make. And so I loved that you shared your story and your analogy there, because it is a moment by moment. You have to constantly keep checking back in with yourself. And I loved that you were like, what was my highest value? Because, somebody else's highest value might have been, actually spending this next 2 hours here to get ahead. Like that could have been their highest value.
Absolutely.
There is no right or wrong. It's really about like knowing who you are as a woman and what your values are so that you can lead with love.
Exactly. And I was the woman who was like, no, 2 more hours here. And when I was on a recent trip that I took by myself to go speak at an event in Mexico, where I was like, oh, I'm really feeling the call to be more present in motherhood. And it's time I listen to that call. And so because of that space and time for myself and the inquiries I go into in that moment, the choice was obvious. Yeah.
Let's delve into that. I know that we said that there was going to be no rules around this conversation today.
Yeah, no rules. Fuck the rules.
I know that there is a lot of women in my space that are mothers and are business owners as well. Like a lot of the women that are listening to these episodes are very much that. And so for you, and the women that you work with, and even just you yourself, because you're an entrepreneur. So how do you juggle that? How do you juggle motherhood, the business? Like, the business was usually the baby before the baby.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. And so then sometimes there's this like little bit of guilt about like stepping away from the business, but then it's like, oh, but like the business suffers if I'm not there. And it's like, it's almost like this mind fuck where they're just like, I don't know how to spread myself between two of these things that are both really important to me.
Yeah, I think it's not an easy one to answer, but I will say that part of it for me has been actually like decompartmentalizing, so that it's not like business is here and motherhood is here and they're these two separate things that never intertwine. and actually seeing that, like, when I am in my flow in my business and I'm in my overflow in my business, I am so tapped into this like creative energy that I then get to also pour into my children. And then the way I pour into my children and I'm in the space with them also feeds my business. Because when I'm, for example, not all my clients, not at all, but many of them are mothers. And so I have this visceral, felt, embodied experience of how being with my kids, like now I can coach on that more in a more embodied way, right? And so they are always feeding into each other, and they are not these separate things, right? So I'm not going to pretend that it's easy. But what I will say is that, like, really at the end of the day, if you are successful in your business, but you are not feeling like you are really showing up as the mother you want to be, as the partner you want to be, as the woman you want to be, are you really in your version of success, in your highest version of success? And I'll say this other piece as well. Echo? Okay. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut. I don't know if you will edit. Okay.
We can edit.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I will say as well, and this is something that I'm speaking about at a summit soon, is there's another piece here that really gets to free up so much of your time and energy. And I am so passionate about this because we think of secure attachment like the way we attach to a person, like a lover, right? We're like, oh, I don't want to be in my anxiousness or my avoidance. I'd love to feel secure. But actually, we get to practice being in secure attachment with our businesses and trust that space. I know, exactly. It's getting hot in here. Right? So
next topic.
Exactly. Right? So it's this opportunity to really practice being in secure attachment, which is like, it's good when we're close, but it's also okay when we're apart. And then what happens, or maybe for you feel, somebody listening feels actually more anxiously attached to their kids, for example, and feel like they can't take space from their kids. But when we can practice being in these like securely embodied relationships with the different parts of our lives, that we are not overthinking things, suddenly so much time and energy frees up to be able to be with so many more aspects of your life. So that's what I'll say to that.
Yeah, I loved that. The overthinking.
The damn overthinking. Yeah.
I think every woman is a pro at that, at overthinking. So what would be your advice around a woman that can't switch off the mind? I know what I would teach in my spaces, and I know that's something that I would say would be like trying to find those moments of stillness, and it doesn't have to be 4-hour morning, sacred mornings. Like, it can literally just be that intentionality of like locking yourself in the bedroom for 5 minutes and just taking some deep breaths just to like calm the nervous system down. So what would you say to a woman that is like, I am just an overthinker all the time?
Yeah, I would actually say get in your body. So I would actually say dance and self-pleasure. So when I'm in overthinking, I'm like, fuck this shit. Turn on the music, shake my ass. I noticed you swore, so I'm like, I guess I'm allowed here too. So like, shake my ass, move my hips, forget my head exists altogether. Like, move it around, and then maybe go into my bed and like pull out a wand and just start like massaging my insides and connecting to my body and remembering that I am also a body and not just a head, right? And so I would say, like, sometimes the stillness feels hard to access, right? But there's so much profoundness found in the stillness, so much depth found in the stillness. And like, when I'm like, a woman's like, oh, do I text him back? I'm like, oh my God, put down your phone, turn on your Spotify and shake, like, just move, right? And I really feel a few minutes of that, and it's like, oh, I remember who I am.
I love that you talked about that. Dancing is a huge part of my world.
I've
It's
noticed that recently. Yeah.
there is always music on. And yeah, it's just so much gets stuck in the body. And we do have to like shake it out and like actually physically get the energy out. And it can change your mood instantly. So
Instantly. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I loved that you talked about that. So all right, so let's say the woman that is like wanting to maybe have more of a self-pleasure practice. Let's delve a little bit into that topic
Let's
because
go
that
there.
is
Mm-hmm.
something that I am like, I've just come out of 2 years being celibate
Mm-hmm.
and had a really beautiful connection with a past like 16-year-old lover when I was 16, and it didn't work
Wow.
out, but it was
Mm-hmm.
deeply healing, and I was
Mm-hmm.
super grateful for it. But self pleasure has definitely been something that I have had a hard time wrapping my head around because I grew up religious, first of
Yeah.
all. So,
Yeah. Same.
like,
Mm-hmm.
growing up in a religious household, it's like, no sex before marriage, all of that stuff. And then all of a sudden, self pleasure, like, that's just a topic that wasn't even taught. I didn't even know if my mum had any tools or anything like that. Like, there was never a topic in our household. However, since becoming sexually active and then learning how to connect with my body, can I say that self pleasure was such a huge turning point for number one, learning to love my body because I
Mm-hmm.
struggled with body image for pretty much
Mm-hmm.
my entire teen through to
Mm-hmm.
like 20s. So
Mm-hmm.
loving my body. And the second one was confidence.
Yeah.
Like actually like stepping into that full blown power of like
Mm.
what I am capable of doing in
Mm.
this lifetime from having beautiful self pleasure practices. So
Yeah.
I would love to talk a little bit about that because I know that there is women here that potentially could be a little bit triggered by this conversation that we are
Yeah.
having right now. And I think it's really important that we break that stigma as well
Yeah.
around self-pleasure. So like what have you got to say around that topic and that
Oh,
conversation?
so much, so much. And I will also give like a big shout out to Anna Gasol, who I went through
Mm-hmm.
her Mystic Priestess Awakening Mastermind as well. So to help deepen this for myself as well. And so, one of the big things that I want to say is self pleasure does not equal masturbation. Okay. It is not a quick, flick of the clit and get off.
Yeah.
It is not
Yeah.
that.
No.
It is not that. It is
Mm-hmm.
a sacred moment with yourself. And if you never enter or go anywhere near your genitals, you also get to be in so much self pleasure. Right. So like it can look, it can look so many ways. It can look like seducing yourself in front of the mirror, very edgy. Right. But what a way to start to love your body when you actually start to see it as something that looks sexy and feels sexy. Like, wow, like full goosebumps right now, right? It can be yoni
Yeah.
gazing, like literally pulling out a mirror and looking at your underworld,
Mm-hmm.
like gazing and loving it and admiring it and maybe seeing your, the reflection of your hands touching yourself and just like pouring beautiful affirmations onto yourself. Or maybe it's a breast massage or an arm massage or, using some oils to caress your body and just like say loving words or even just feel love as you do that. Or even if you can't access that at all, the sheer act of taking 10 minutes to warm some oil between your hands and rub it across your body, and then you can take it a step further and do a meditation with an egg inserted into your yoni, or you could use a wand to explore, your canal and the tender places and just spend some loving time there and then feel yourself get turned on. And it doesn't have to lead to a conclusion, although it gets to, and that's fun too. Right. But like it is the act of taking time to please yourself in any way you really feel called to do. And that gets to look different and evolve over time or based on where you are in your cycle. Like a pleasure practice for me on my bleed is going to mean caressing my breasts and my womb from, just on top, just the skin. right? So it's also, we are so cyclical and you get to start anywhere, but it's a radical practice. And especially when you're a mother, right? Like I remember like, oh, there was this afternoon and I spent like an hour in self-pleasure and then I made love to my partner. And then like one of my clients signed on with like this massive package after, and I was like, holy shit, like this is freaking radical living for a mother. Like my mom did not do this. She hustled and bustled and like
Yeah.
never did I see her in her sensuality at all. Right. And so it's a really radical thing to do. But, also just from a really like scientific place, your vagus nerve is connected to your cervix. So if you can practice to, whether it's inserting your fingers or inserting a wand, I don't suggest anything with rubber, and coming up against your cervix and maybe getting to the place where you are having an orgasm, like that is an incredible way to legitimately reset your nervous system. Right. So there is a real benefit to this. There is a real healing that happens. And that was a deep thing for me because I was very sexual with my partner. But what Anna helped me see was I had lost the connection to the sexuality with myself because I had outsourced it to him and our time together. And of course, that's essential and beautiful, right? And quite a feat too, with two young kids and still feeling that way about each other.
Yeah.
But now there was an invitation to reclaim that practice with myself.
Mm. And how do you feel that that changed your life when you started to prioritize that?
Oh, my magnetism just turned all the way up. My
Mm.
magnetism turned all the way up because it's like you feel juicy. You feel like you feel alive. You
Mm.
feel connected to your womanhood besides being this productive machine that's like making snacks and getting kids ready for school and writing the post and answering the emails and doing the coaching calls and doing, even though a lot of that doing feels like being. It's like the juice just turns on, and my nervous system was also really like finding itself in a new place, right? In a new place of like feeling really nourished beyond just, the other things like breath work, like meditation, like exercise. This felt like a deeper access point to my nervous system. Also from a very spiritual place, was connecting me to, when you're in that orgasmic state, if or when you get there, and it doesn't even matter if you don't get there, you are connecting to this other dimension that isn't like and then you're like, how can I bring, it started to open the question for me, how can I bring that level of sensation and overflow of sensation into just like cooking dinner or, playing with the kids? Like, can I be that alive and turned on in other moments of my life? I mean, I'm a human, so it's not all the time every day, right? But it's really turned up my magnetism. It increased my sexuality with my partner even more. Like the openness, the receiving, the seductress energy that like I was very at ease with receiving from him, but I've now been able to like tune into this like seduction energy, which is like so good for your sales too, right? Where you know how to be seductive with the people who are knocking at your door and you're not just like, here, do you want my offer?
Literally.
Right. So there's so much that has changed, and your womb is the receptive space of your body. So
Mhm.
opening it, warming it up, reminding her that you love her and that you see that she's there, like already just increases your capacity to receive.
Mhm. Mm. Amen to that. And I 100% can vouch for that for sure. Because yeah, I know when I went on that journey, it was like really in sort of like 2021, I reckon I really started to, I just left a long-term relationship, and I was in this season of like, I don't know who I am. And so therefore I have to explore. I have to explore these different options and avenues. And I was investing in different mentorship containers that were edgy, like, like some of the program names that I was like getting into, like one was called Sacred Sexuality, like just things like that, where it's like, oh, this feels like an edge, but it just really helps us claim back our power. So
Yeah.
the to the woman that's listening to this and is curious about starting to have this practice, what advice would you give to her if she's like, where the fuck, Diana, do I fit that into my day?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because with
Well,
everything else
yeah.
that I've got going
Yeah.
on.
So, okay, from a very practical place, I'll say open up your phone right now, check your screen time, and tell me how many hours you spend on your phone in a day.
Amen, sister. Amen.
So now let's multiply that over 7 days, and then let's
Yeah.
multiply that over 30, 31 days in a month, right? And then tell me that you have absolutely not, you do not have 10 minutes to give this to yourself. And the thing about time is it does expand and contract based on how you engage with it, right? So even my son the other day, he was like waiting for his toy to charge, and he's like, it's only been 1 minute. I'm like, isn't that interesting? I'm like, but if you were playing with Grayson, one of his best friends, and I said you only have 1 minute left to play, you'd be like, that was so fast. But because you're waiting for this toy to charge, it feels so long. Like, how interesting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so time doesn't really feel that way, right? Sometimes it contracts and expands. And the interesting thing about it is, like, when you start to give yourself that time, suddenly the quality with which, so let's say you are taking the time to connect with your body, and might not feel this right away until you start to get into a groove with it, but suddenly the quality of how you're being after those 10 minutes of self-practice, let's say, or self-pleasure. And I'm going to suggest you get to a place where you're giving yourself an hour, when at least once a week, giving yourself an hour. The way you're going to go and do things after is going to carry a different signature and feel like almost instantaneous, right? Like, I write a post, 2 minutes, it takes me 2 minutes after I've completed a self-pleasure practice, right? So what maybe took you 20 now takes you a tenth of the time. So it's kind of like one of those things, you just got to like start it, right? Kind of like exercise, and then you're in the groove, and you're like, oh, okay, now I see it, right? And block it out. Like, I have a reminder on my phone Friday mornings, because Friday I don't take calls. So I have a reminder on my phone Friday morning, like, self-pleasure practice, right? And there's nothing wrong. Like, I'm not even against you scheduling in your sex dates with your partner, especially when you do have kids. Doesn't mean you can't also have spontaneous sex. Schedule it in like you would anything else that matters to you.
Yeah, anything that's a priority.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's important to, when you're building those new habits and, things that you wouldn't normally have on your calendar or whatever, if you are someone that does operate using a calendar, then I think it is a great way to actually schedule it in, because it is so easy for us to get distracted. We live in a world that is designed to keep us distracted from ourselves, literally.
Quite literally, yeah.
Yeah, literally. So, yeah, sometimes having those, like, the most simplest tools, like putting it in your calendar, can be such a game changer until that new habit is formed. So I loved that you talked about that. And I loved that you talked about the amount of time that we spend on our phone and screen time. I often use that analogy in a lot of my spaces. We're like, oh, I just didn't have time to do X, Y, Z, whatever it is, when you're trying to make them accountable for what they said they were going to do this week.
Yeah.
Like, all right, let's see how much time you spent on Instagram this week. That's what I thought. So
exactly.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's really powerful, because, like I said, we are in a world right now that is designed to keep us distracted. It is designed to have us numb out, right? The world doesn't want us to connect back to our body. It doesn't want us to feel
we're
our
too
power.
powerful there. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Can I add something here?
Please.
If you're listening to this and you're like, I don't know, like, I hear you. I will just call out right now that you are going to have so much resistance to starting this. And the resistance is your mind gripping to your current reality and not at all wanting you to expand into something new. And so the more resistance you feel around this, because I will tell you, like, how long has it been now? 7 months into this devotion, I still feel resistance. I still try to convince myself I don't need this today. Okay. Right. So the more resistance you have, the bigger the transformation on the other side. Right. So your resistance is not a cue of like, maybe this isn't for me. Your resistance is likely your ego being like, that's too powerful.
Yeah, the resistance
and too much will change. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I love that you talked on that, because I feel like there is sometimes a bit of a movement with the, the relaxing and like listening to your body and, all of that stuff. And I'm all here for that, like 100%. Like, today's like day 2 of my period. So, like it was a slow morning, but here we are recording a podcast episode, right? So there is this balance between the flow of doing stuff and resting. So I loved that you touched on that, because it can be very easy for us to subscribe to that resistance as, it means that it's not meant to happen. And it's like, well, actually it can be the opposite of that. It can be, that's exactly why you need to lean into that.
And your body's just familiar with, picking up your phone or watching something instead.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I loved that you touched on that. Yeah. I think that's very, very powerful, because I'm sure there'll be someone listening that will be like, shit, I've just been called out right now.
And we love you. We love you. Yeah, we see you.
Been there, still there.
Still right there with you, sister. Yeah.
That's the thing about devotional practices, right? Like they take awareness, and you have to become intentional with it as well, because it's not going to they're not just going to keep happening. You have to be intentional about creating them as part of your daily routine. So
yes.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So is there any final words that you want to share that you are maybe seeing collectively within the space around this self-centered woman, this like activating love? I feel like every topic that we've kind of like delved into today is really like amplified this like self-centered woman and the love, right? And all these different tools and modalities that she can tap into to come back home to herself. Is there anything that you have noticed that is a bit of a theme at the moment that you feel potentially a woman listening to this might need to hear this message that might be popping up? Is there anything that is on your heart that you want to share?
Yes, and I've been seeing it show up in all different kinds of external ways, but really it all comes back to the same thing. So I'm thinking of like one of my clients who is really resisting being single right now, and like is really feeling like she's really being hard on herself about it. And I think of another client who is really resisting her children are very young, needing her so much, and like knowing that it's normal that they need her, but all she wants is to get to her business. And there's so many examples I can think of like this. And what I hear in all of it, and something I've really been in deeper practice around, is like, be where you are. Be where you are and find nourishment and love in exactly where you are. I thought I would have made more money by now, or I thought I'd have a certain amount of clients by now, or I thought I'd already have started a family by now, or I thought I thought my kids would need less from me by now, or whatever it might be for you. And it's like, hand on your heart, like I just did that so intuitively right now, hand on your heart, maybe even a hand on your womb if that feels good, and or your space beneath your belly button, and just drop into, but right here, right now, I could choose to be so grateful for there's some really beautiful things in my life. Like I'm thinking of this one client who's resisting being single, but she's on this like epic trip in Europe right now, but not fully there because like there's this resistance to where she is in her life. And like, there's so much to be grateful for in this moment, and to trust that gratitude isn't throwing in the towel. That gratitude is the launch pad for more. That meeting the present moment with love and gratitude is the launch pad for more.
Yes. Yeah, I love that you said that. And I think sometimes, when we are so focused on like what's next, we actually miss so much of the magic that is like right in front of us. Like,
and that is pointing you to what's next.
Yes.
Yeah, like it's actually pointing you to where you're going and where you could be. Yeah.
Yes, yeah, but it's like you've got the blinkers on too much that you can't actually see this beautiful flourishing garden that you have created right in
Hmm.
front of you. Like a past version of you would have dreamed of that life with where
Yeah.
you are right now. Do you want more? I think honestly, like if you're listening to this episode, the women that are listening to, they're women that want more, right? Like we
Oh, I'm
keep
right there with you.
changing.
Yeah.
We keep changing the goalpost, right? We say we
Yeah.
want this, then we get it, and we're like, actually, no, now I want this, and then we get that, and then we're like, actually, now I want this, and we keep shifting that goalpost. So the reality is that we're never gonna actually be fully satisfied because we're gonna keep chasing it. So yeah, I love that you like touched on that of like it is a journey, right? There is no destination. And how can we come back to the present moment and remember that this time you'll never get this time again. Like this
Mm.
present moment with where you're at right now is all that matters because
Hmm.
you'll never have this opportunity to be this version of you, to experience life the way that you're experiencing life through the lens that you're seeing it, the belief system that you got it, because you're constantly growing and evolving. So
Hmm.
I loved that you, yeah, touched on that. And it is very hard to do. I'll be the first to admit it. As high achievers, like we are constantly like looking for the next level of expansion, the next level
Yeah.
of evolution. And
Yeah.
so it you have to consciously be like, whoa, hold on. Like
Yeah.
let's bring it back a little bit here and let's
Yes.
savor this moment. Mm.
Yes. Yes. I love that so much. Hmm.
I love that. I love this whole conversation today. Thank
It's
you so
so
much for
good.
coming. I mean, I feel like we could have like talked for hours on end about all of the topics. But if anyone's listening to this episode, we'll drop your Insta handle in the show notes.
Awesome.
We'll also
Hmm.
plug Anna in as well. I'm familiar
Cool.
with Anna, so I'll
Yes.
plug her as well if anyone's interested in having a little bit more of a delve into that. But where can we find you? Is there anything that you've got open at the moment that you're welcoming people into? Give us a spiel. How can we find you at the moment?
Sure. Okay. Well, Instagram is a great place. So you'll drop that handle and honestly, just like say hello. If something resonates from this episode, if you check out my page and there's a message that really calls to you, like I just love to always hear that. I'm a generator in my human design. So like, give me something to respond to, please. That is my love language. And we can always have a chat and see like, where are you at right now and what are your
Mhm.
desires, and we can see what the spaces that could fit best for what you're looking for. Hmm.
I love that. Yes, you're in the show notes, so you can head there. You'll find all of the details on where you can find Diana. And if you have had any big takeaways or any aha moments, or even if you're feeling triggered, like come and let us know. Like we're here for it all, like we're here for the expansion and the evolution of every single woman. So we would love to hear how it's landed for you. If you want to hear more of these kind of conversations, then let me know because I have a huge network of women that I can 100% bring on and we can deepen into all of these topics. And if you are interested in coming into my spaces, you will see everything in the show notes for what is currently available. So go and have a look there. If you're like overwhelmed by that and you're like, there's just so much abundance here, I don't even know where to start, come and DM me and we can have a conversation about what it might look like for you to come into my space. But I want to thank you for taking some time out today
Thank
to
you.
really, yeah, like learn how to become the self-centered woman, right? Like I really loved that's your theme, and thank you for doing this work with these women and breaking these generational patterns because we are super powerful as women.
Yeah.
And so collectively, when we can all get behind each other, I think we're going to see some really big shifts. So thank you for doing your
Hmm.
work and bringing your
Thank
medicine.
you.
And thank you for coming on today, Diana, for sharing this beautiful message with all of my beautiful people. Thank you
My
so
true
much.
pleasure. Thank you.
We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Talk soon.